And I thought today I talk a little bit about phobias. Phobias are how I first got into doing what I do. Phobias is what drove me to learn hypnosis, NLP, and coaching to resolve my own phobias. I used to be painfully shy, terrified of speaking with strangers. So I learned NLP, hypnosis, coaching, did the whole lot, right up to train the trainer level to sort myself out. Completely eliminated that phobia. Found I enjoyed it, found I was good at it, helped lots of other friends, and then through redundancy, got the money to set up my own business. That was about 12 years ago, and I've been helping thousands of people around the planet ever since. Phobias was where I started. So let's go back and take a look at phobias. Now, phobias are something which affect, figures vary because it's not always easy to get these figures, but it's estimated around 3 to 4% of the entire population of the world have a phobia at any one time. That's 300 million people around the planet have phobias. So if you do have a phobia, take comfort in knowing that you're not alone. There are a lot of people out there who have phobias. Spoilers, phobias can be completely cured, and we'll take a look at that in a few moments. But just before we do, let's take a little look about what is a phobia. So a phobia is an intense, irrational fear of something which poses you no real threat. There's three key parts to there. It's intense. So we're not talking about a sort of reaction. We're talking about, the full-on dizziness, panic, terror, heart palpitations. Even just the thought of the thing makes you break out into this cold sweat and want to curl up or run away or whatever. It's a really intense reaction. It's of something which poses you no real threat. So you can, if, I don't know, say the thought of running along the ridge tiles on a 20-story building makes you scared. Well, yes, it should, because that's a life-threatening situation. But if the thought of seeing a picture of a spider in a book is enough to make you go, that's probably a phobia, because it's something that poses you no threat. And also irrational. It's an intense irrational fear. And I'm not saying irrational to diminish it, by no means. What I'm saying is the fear itself, you're scared of something, but there's no real reason to be scared of it. And a lot of people who have phobias will say, look, I know it's irrational, I know it's stupid, I know the thing can't help me, but it doesn't make it any better. And it really doesn't. We've been conditioned, and we'll take a look in a second at how we develop these phobias. But that's the key thing. It's an intense, irrational fear of something that doesn't pose you any threat, any real threat. What are the most common phobias? It will vary, but if you were to create a list of the most common phobias, you'd certainly find heights, spiders, fear of speaking in public, flying, darkness, confined spaces, dogs, dentists, thunder and lightning. Turns out Queen were right after all. That is very frightening. And social interaction. All of these things are way up in the list of the most common phobias. And they can all be completely cured. Absolutely can. So how do we develop phobias? A common myth is that we're born with phobias. There's nothing I can do about it. I was born with it, which is not the case at all. Nobody is born scared of anything. If you've had a young child, you'll know that they are fearless. The parents are nervous wrecks because the young toddler seems to be, or the young baby, or it's crawling, seems to be devoting its entire life to finding new ways in which to put itself in mortal danger. Our parents have to spend all this time keeping us alive. We're not born scared of anything, but we learn phobias. And we learn them through one of three ways. Either through a direct, scary experience. So, for example, suppose you're a 3-year-old and you're out with your parents at the park and you wander off because your parents are being boring grown-ups, speaking with other boring grown-ups. You wander off and suddenly this thing, this massive fur and tooth and claw comes bounding up to you, slobbering away. You think, oh my God, it's going to eat me. And you scream. Your parents see you screaming, and they're now shouting at you. because they can't actually reach you. So they're shouting. You're thinking, oh my God, it's even freaking them out. Oh, I'm going to die. You have a very, very, very strong emotional experience. And that sears in your unconscious mind. Your unconscious at that point goes, right, this furry thing equals potential death. So next time you see a dog, it replays this. We know what we do. Panic. That then gets seared in your mind. So that anytime you see a dog, or even think about a dog, it brings back all these strong negative emotions. And so we can learn it through an experience. We can learn it through observation. For example, if you see a parent freaks out every time they see a spider, you very quickly learn, okay, we see a 8-legged thing, we freak out. Got it. I'm rocking at this learning thing. So we learn all this unconsciously without thinking about it. Or the other one is we get taught it. Now, here's one. I bet pretty much everybody here has had these 4 words said to them when they were young. Don't talk to strangers. Don't talk to strangers. And there's no two ways about it. It is life-saving advice. However, because of the fear in our parents when they're telling us this, it doesn't come across as, oh, by the way, don't talk to strangers. It comes across more as, don't you dare talk to a stranger, because if you talk to a stranger, they'll kill you to death. And Mummy and Daddy will be very upset, and it'll all be your fault because you spoke to a stranger. It's like, whoa, is it any wonder so many people have got fears about speaking with strangers? When was the last time anyone said to you, you know what, you're big enough, you're old enough, you can talk to strangers, it's okay? We don't get told that usually. So those are the 3 different ways in which we learn phobias. And once we've learned it, that becomes ingrained as our unconscious as patterns. That's how we react. So we see the thing or even think about the thing, it triggers all those emotions, puts us into fight or flight mode, and we're there in the full panic. Now, can we overcome phobias? Well, yes, we can. And that's what I started off helped myself to overcome phobias. I've helped thousands. It's all about changing the way the mind stores these memories and changing the way in which the mind has the associations with the thing. Because if you're terrified of spiders, for example, you had whatever that taught you to be scared of spiders. So now anytime you think of a spider, your mind goes, spider, panic. Yeah, okay, it brings back all those emotions. So what we do using NLP or even using hypnosis, what we do is we change the emotions that are associated with that memory. How can you change a memory? Here's a really, really key point. When you remember something, you're not remembering that event. You're simply replaying the last time that you remembered it. Because when you remember something, the memory disappears. The act of actually playing back the memory causes that memory to disappear. But our mind also records us remembering the memory, so we get another copy of it. But it's kind of like if you video a film at the cinema, you'll get the noise of everybody that's around there, all these other things. So every time you replay a memory, it also loads in what's going on at the time, gets slightly more and more corrupt each time. So we can use that to our advantage, replay the memory, which means we re-record it. But as we do that, we change the emotional state we're in at the time. And we keep doing this over and over and over and over and over again in a short period of time. That memory eventually becomes devoid of the emotion. So all the negative emotion has gone away from it. So instead of feeling panic about the thing, we feel calm, feel relaxed. You don't have to have any of this brutally nasty exposure therapy, spending months building you up to being exposed to things. None of that nonsense. This can be done very safely. Typically, we do it in a single session. The fastest I've ever had was a lady who got over her fear of snakes in 10 minutes. Typically, it's a single session, maybe 40 to 50 minutes, something like that. But the good news is, if you have a phobia, you can completely get rid of it for life. If you want to know more, I'm always happy to have a chat. That's what I wanted to talk about. Phobias, 3 to 4% of the population have them. Anyone can get rid of them for life. Any questions, anyone?
Well done, Keith. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be able to speak on camera. So again, thank you for that. We've got about a minute or two for questions if anybody has one. If not, I think everybody's going to go back into themselves and work out what the root causes of their phobias were, Keith.
Quite possibly. In fact, an interesting thing is often people say, but I don't know what caused it. And that's absolutely fine too. You may not know because your unconscious mind is going, that's really scary. I'm not going to let you remember that. But when you work with a therapist, your unconscious mind is working with them. So your unconscious mind processes it all. Sometimes you'll then end up remembering what it was. Sometimes you'll never remember what it was, but doesn't matter because you'll now find that thing is no longer scary in the slightest.
Absolutely. Well, I do have one question. Is there any phobia you haven't been able to help with?
Not so far. Not so far. The key is the person must want to overcome the phobia, and let's face it, they usually do, because phobias are quite a pain in the neck. Basically, occasionally you might find having a phobia does give them a hidden benefit. By having the phobia, it means they don't have to do something else that they don't want to do. If you're in that situation, unless you address that other issue, you might find it harder to overcome the phobia. But whenever I work with someone, that's one of the things we check, is to see, is there a hidden benefit it's giving you? If so, what else could give you that benefit so you can get rid of that phobia completely? So not so far.